Hello everyone and welcome to this AQUAS tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use the Quick Setup window in AQUAS to quickly set up a water for your scene, and I'm also going to show you how to set up underwater effects, and in the later part of the video I'm going to show you how to set up multiple water planes properly. So let's just get started. I have created a scene. Now the only things I have in this scene are this terrain, a directional light and an FPS controller with a first-person character that has a camera component on it. You can also use a main camera, but I used this setup so I could demonstrate what AQUAS looks like in action. So if we now run the scene, all we see is just we can look around a bit, and we see pretty much nothing but an empty terrain. And now we want to add water. First thing we're going to do, all I have imported in this project is AQUAS. That comes together with some stuff from the editor and some stuff from the standard assets. So to set up AQUAS, all we need to do is we're going to go to Window, to the pull down menu, and then we're going to look for AQUAS, and there's the Quick Setup, which will open up the Quick Setup window. I'm quickly going to dock it over here, and what it wants us to do is it wants us to specify a water level, provide a terrain, and a main camera. Now first of all, we need to find out where our water level is. You can do it any way you want. Usually I just create a plane, and let me just quickly scale it up a bit so it's visible, and I'm simply going to position it where I think I want to have the water level. So something like, now it's at Y95, so I think that's also where I want my water level to be. So I'm simply going to delete the plane, and I'm going to go to the Quick Setup window and specify water level of 95. For the terrain, I'm simply going to drag the terrain from the hierarchy and drop it in here. For the main camera, it needs the game object that has a camera component on it. I'm simply going to drag the first person character and drop it on here. And now we should have everything we need, and we're just going to click Add Water. Now this might take a bit right now because I'm recording at the same time. Usually it goes instantly. How slow? Let's wait a couple of seconds. Oh, come on. And there it is. Okay, so now we have our water plane. It's properly scaled, and there is quite a visible tiling on that texture, but this is because this water is actually huge. The terrain is a 2 by 2 kilometer terrain, so once you get close enough, tiling is virtually not visible anymore. But in case you need to go further away, you can always select the water plane like this, and if you go to the material settings, you can see that for all normal textures there's a tiling value, and you can adjust it as you see fit. So if I reduce the tiling a lot here and do it on all textures, you see that it now looks a lot more natural from far away, but if I go close, you see that it doesn't look very natural anymore. It looks like liquid plastic. So I'm gonna revert to the old settings, and now it looks as we want to have it. And that's pretty much a basic setup for a water surface. If I now run the scene, we should be able to walk around and see we have a cute little shoreline. We see caustics being displayed. We see refraction when we look through the water. We see specularity on the water. Surface looks nice. Now let's just have a look underwater and see what that looks like. It's not very nice and not very desirable either. So next thing we have to do is we have to set up the underwater effects, which is what we're going to do next. Quickly going to exit play mode. And oh yeah, before I forget, one thing you might want to do when working with AQUAS is when you customize the material properties, there's quite a lot you can customize, like main color, that's going to be absorbed, deep water color, depth, transparency, and fade, and all that stuff. Most of it is self-explanatory, but in case it's not, you can always have a look at the documentation where it says what each of those parameters does, and generally you can play around with them. But in order to see how it looks like when in play mode, you want to activate animation in edit mode, which you can do over here. When you look at the mouse cursor over here, is a little button, and if you click this, you can check animated materials, and if you have that checked, materials are going to animate in edit mode too. So now let's add the underwater effects. In the quick setup window, we pretty much have everything we need, so I'm simply going to click add underwater effects. Now usually does it instantly, but for some reason when I'm recording it takes forever till it does that. But okay, it's done, and now we can test it. I'm gonna go into play mode again, and on afloat everything looks just like before, and if we go underwater we see that now we have a blur, we have a distorted vision, we have spawning bubbles that move up to the surface. We see caustics at a different tiling from afloat, and that is because usually when you're in deep water, caustics are being generated by larger waves, thus they are larger on the ground. Yeah, so we see a limited vision. And if we go deeper, we see that there is a threshold to which caustics are being displayed, and below that point caustics are not being displayed. That is, when you're in deep water there's no caustics. Bubbles of course continue spawning. And if we go closer to the surface, we see caustics again. And the closer we get to the surface, the brighter it gets. And when we go outside the water, we get this wet lens effect too. So I'll just quickly show that again. That's what it looks like. And yeah, let me quickly exit play mode for now. And let me quickly show you how to customize the underwater effects. I've already told you that in order to customize the water itself, you simply select it and you can customize everything in the materials inspector. To customize the underwater effects, we're going to go to the underwater camera effects object that has been attached to our camera game object when we added the underwater effects. And we're simply going to click this, and in the inspector we see a script called AQUAS Lens Effect, and it has a couple of parameter groups. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them because they're documented. You can look it up in the manual what each parameter does. I'm just going to quickly go through a few of them. You can specify the fog density and the bloom and the fog color. The game objects require you, when you set up manually, require you to provide some information, like which one is the main camera, what's your water lens, and what's your air lens. Those are the little child objects attached to the underwater camera effects over here. You need to specify a bubble, which is a prefab that you can find in the AQUAS folder under prefabs. There we have the bubble. You have a water planes array, to which we're going to get later. For now we only have a single water plane, and then we can specify the bubble spawn criteria. Here you can control how many bubbles are being spawned, how they behave, and all that stuff. You can specify for the wet lens how much it takes to dry when you dive up and how long it stays wet before it starts drying, how fast the drops run down the lens. We can change the caustic settings. We can have different caustic intensities for afloat and underwater. Same goes for tiling. Remember when I told you that caustics tend to be larger when you're underwater? That's why you have a smaller tiling for caustics for underwater. You can specify a maximum caustic depth below which caustics are not going to be displayed. And you can specify the volume of the sound effects. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we're going to have a look at how to set up multiple water. Oh no, one thing before I forget it. If we expand the AQUAS water plane, we have a few child objects, one being a reflection probe. If we select this, we see that its type is set to baked, but you are free to change it to real time and adjust the intensity to get different looking water. It's an effect that some people like to use, some don't, but that's entirely up to you. We have the primary and secondary caustics projector that project the caustics to the terrain below the water surface, and then we have another game object called borders. Now, what is that? When we zoom out, and I have this selected, you see that the borders are actually just really borders around the terrain. This is because the underwater effects that include some sort of fog draw that fog on opaque surfaces. And that's what those borders are. If they aren't there, beyond that point, all you would see would be the horizon, to which fog couldn't be displayed. I'm quickly going to show you what happens if there is no borders. I have the speed run on, so I'm quickly going to run to the open water. And there we are. Let's quickly dive in, and everything looks nice so far. Now when I deactivate the borders object, we see that we get this white line. That's that's the horizon on which the underwater fog cannot be rendered, and that's why we need it. So I'm quickly going to reactivate it, and now everything looks as it should. Now let me quickly go out of exit mode again, and next thing I'm going to show you is how to set up multiple water levels. And now we have one big water plane, but say you want to have two lakes with different water levels, then the quick setup alone cannot do it. So I'm going to show you how to do that manually. First, what we need to do is we're going to select the AQUAS water plane, and we're going to scale it down. Okay, and we're going to move it to this lake. And maybe, I don't know why it moves it, why it always moves it down, but I'm going to bring it back to 95. Our water level, well, it's a bit too small. Let me scale it up again. It's too big now. And get it back down to 95. And yeah, that looks pretty much fine. And now what we need to do, we see that there still are the borders there, but now that the water is entirely surrounded by terrain, we don't need those borders, so I'm simply going to select them and delete. And the other thing that we must do is we're going to take care of the size of the caustic projectors. So I'm going to select the primary caustics projector, and we see that the projector is really large. It goes way beyond the terrain, and since we don't want to have caustics displayed outside the water, we're simply going to scale this down to something like 400. That looks good. Yeah, it looks okay. And we're going to select the secondary caustics projector and also scale that down to 400. And now we have our first water plane set up. Now all we need to do is select the AQUAS water plane, duplicate it, and then move it where we want to have it to the second lake. Well, looks about right, a bit too large. I scale it down just a bit. Still too large. Let me scale it down another bit. And also have the primary and secondary caustics projector scaled down just a bit to 300. That looks good. And now we're almost done. The last thing we need to do is take care of the caustics materials. The thing is that now that the two lakes are at different water levels, the caustics won't display correctly, at least not on the second one. That is because if we expand both water planes and have a look at the caustics projectors, we see over here that they both use the primary caustics material. Okay, and in the secondary caustics projectors, they both use the secondary caustics material. Now the thing is that the water level above which caustics are not to be displayed is being controlled via script, but is being stored within the material. Now if both are using the same material but are at different water levels, it won't work. So for the second water plane, we're going to need another material for the primary and secondary caustics. And all we need to do to get that is we're going to go to Materials, Caustics, and there we have our two materials for primary and secondary caustics projector. We're simply going to select and duplicate them. And now we have a primary caustics material and a primary 1 caustics material. Same goes for secondary caustics material. And all we need to do now is we're going to go to our primary caustics projector and we're going to select the material and select primary caustics material, primary caustics 1 material. Same we're going to do for the secondary caustics projector. And now we're almost there. Only thing we need to specify now is we need to tell the underwater effects that there's two water planes at different water levels. So for that we're going to go to Game Objects and to Water Planes, which I mentioned before. There's an array and it says set water planes array size equals number of water planes, which means we have two water planes, so I'm going to set the size to 2. And now element 1 asks us for another water plane, and here's where we're going to drop our second water plane. And that's pretty much it. Now let's just run and see how it works. So we're at the first water plane, and if we run around here we see that everything works as expected. Caustics are showing as they should, and underwater effects work as expected. Now let me quickly dive up and make a speed run to the other lake. There's a huge terrain, so it takes a while. But there it is. So we have a lower water level over here. And now if we have a look, caustics work fine, water works fine, underwater effects work as expected, everything looking good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There is only one last thing that I would like to discuss, which is that you are not limited to use this water shader. AQUAS comes with 9 different water shaders, 5 for web and desktop, 4 for mobile, and this one is the one that is being applied by default when you use the Quick Setup window. But you don't have to use it. You can also use another one. This one is better suited for lively waters, but if you want to have calmer waters, you can simply go to Materials, Water, Desktop and Web, and there's the two-sided triple texture, which is currently in use. And now let's just take the two-sided double texture, which is not bumpy, and we immediately see that it looks quite a bit different. It looks a bit calmer, generally different. And if we select it, we see that we have similar customization options, so we can customize anything we want, really. And if we go to go and see what it looks like, we see that it's quite a bit different from the last one. Refraction is a bit stronger, but in general the surface seems a lot calmer. But yeah, there is really a lot to play around with, and if we run to the other leg quickly, we see that that one still has the other shader on it, the more bumpy one. So if you want to use a different shader, you should make sure to use it on all the water planes that you have in the scene. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. There's quite a lot more stuff you can do and learn about AQUAS, but I feel like this tutorial is already getting too long, so this will be a part of another tutorial. For now, thanks a lot for watching. If you have any feedback or questions or need any support, please feel free to send an email or leave a post on the forum. And also, if you want to support the development of AQUAS, it would be very, very helpful if you leave a review in the asset store. And yeah, that is it for now. Thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye.